The first person to survive Alzheimer's disease is out there. They're going to hold on to everything the disease steals away. That smile they can't hide. The dance class they love. Every single piece of them is going to make it through. And the Alzheimer's Association is going to make it happen by funding research, advancing public policy, and spurring scientific breakthroughs. And by providing local support to those living with the disease and their caregivers, we're easing the burden for all those facing it until we accomplish our goal. Alzheimer's disease has devastated millions of lives, but that's all going to change when we reach the first survivor. But we won't get there without you. Visit alz.org to join the fight.
Well, welcome to Reason to Hope. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here today. We really appreciate you coming out and supporting the Alzheimer's Association and learning a little bit more about it. I would like to recognize our judge-elect, Jennifer Petrella. Woo! And just a couple of thank yous in the room. I'd really like to thank Karen Hunt, who is my right arm to setting up this event. I really appreciate everything you've done. And of course, the table hosts, anyone who invited people to be here today, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And our speakers today, especially Scott Griswold, our guest speaker, who, you're going to love him. He's very inspiring. We are very fortunate to have him with us today. And of course, just thanks to all the volunteers and the amazing staff who took care of all the details, set up, printing stuff, lugging stuff around, packing stuff, setting up signs, all of that, and even some speakers today. And what I'm mostly grateful for is their help in tearing down later. Woohoo! But these are all some amazing and selfless people, and I'm very blessed to work with them. But speaking of amazing and selfless people, it's my honor to introduce our first speaker of the day. She is an amazing advocate for Alzheimer's Association. She's passionate about advocating for access to treatment. She's passionate about providing educational programs and services to our community. And to do all that, we do have to raise money, which is one of the reasons we're here today. But she is like a mental ninja in her creativity. She's pretty amazing, and we are very lucky to have her for the Miami Valley and Greater Cincinnati's executive director. So very happy to have her. So please put your hands together for my boss, Anne Marie Barnett.
Thank you, Terry, for that amazing introduction. Not embarrassed by that at all. It's okay. A lot to live up to now, right? So good morning. Thank you so much again for being here. You already know who I am because Terry just gave me a huge shout out. So I'm here this morning first to thank you all, but also to go over a little bit of the research that we're doing, a little bit about the disease. I know some people are new to our cause, so I want to talk about that a little bit, talk about where we are with some treatments, with some advocacy work. If you have questions at the end, I'll be here. You can ask questions. So many of you may know this already, but we get this question a lot. You know, what's the difference between Alzheimer's and dementia? So dementia, if you think about it, is the umbrella term, so you can, hence the umbrella. And Alzheimer's is the most common form of dementia. But there's also vascular dementia, Lewy body, frontal temporal, so there are other types that fall under that. Now, the Alzheimer's Association helps all dementias, not just Alzheimer's. You know, through some of the research, what we're finding with dementia is there's some mixed dementia now. My mom had vascular dementia and Alzheimer's, so they are seeing that, and it is becoming more common. So we're really looking at that in our research studies as well. And this, I like this slide because it really does give you an idea of what is happening in the brain, the plaques and the tangles, and you can see the brain with someone with advanced Alzheimer's, just how small that is, how many crevices there are. And the reason I like this is a lot of people think of it in some kind of mental illness. It is your brain is physically dying. You cannot grow your brain back. So it is definitely a disease that affects you physically. So I think that's important to kind of point that out to you guys. So every year, the Alzheimer's Association comes out with our facts and figures, and we came out with them again about a month ago. And unfortunately, the numbers are going up. We're at nearly 7 million Americans living with Alzheimer's disease. A couple of facts that you may not know. It actually kills more than breast cancer and prostate cancer combined. And African Americans are twice as likely to get the disease. Hispanics are 1 time as likely to get the disease. And I think one of the stats on here that I was a little shocked by, and a lot of people were a little bit shocked by, is the risk factor at age 45. So you can see it up there. At age 45, your risk factor as a woman is 1 in 5. As a man, it's 1 in 10. So if you think about that, that's a little bit of a scary thought, right? Like those are low numbers. So I think that's a stat that's important because that speaks to what we're doing in research. That speaks to what we're doing, changing some of our programs and services, because we need to diagnose early. That is the key. So it is a really exciting time in research. I get jazzed about research because it's just, I can't even use the words. I'm excited to have the hope finally. I worked for the Alzheimer's Association 2000 to 2002. I can tell you, even having a treatment that slows the progression of the disease was a pipe dream. And to be here now is so exciting. It truly is so exciting. So we are the world's largest nonprofit funder of Alzheimer's research and dementia. You can see we have $405 million invested, over 1,100 projects, and we're in 56 countries. So we don't know where the next treatment or the cure is coming from, but we're going to be the ones that are funding it. And one of the ways we also get our research dollars is we advocate. And you can see we're in DC. Cedric, there's your picture. Cedric joined us in DC this year to advocate for some new bills, to advocate for an increase in funding. But the NIH, really, that's where the funding comes from. And you can see, if you look at the chart, 10 years ago, it was just a little over, 5 million. And now we're over 3.7 billion. It's very exciting. And that really, I will tell you, this chart, those numbers going up, those are all because of our advocates. That is absolutely true. Cedric can attest when we were in DC that there's 1,100 people walking around with sashes on, and every single person knew who we were, and they know we're coming. So they get very excited when they see us. So as I talked about, early diagnosis is the key. Because your brain is physically dying, we have to get there early. And what happens when we're understanding the disease and we're getting diagnosed early is it explains some symptoms. I know of a young couple who actually got divorced because her husband started gambling all the money away. He was in his 40s. He had younger onset Alzheimer's, and they didn't know. So this explains a lot of behaviors, too. So we really need to get in there early, get these treatments early, see if they can participate in clinical trials. There's a lot of reasons that we need the diagnosis early. I was just talking to my neurologist about this, and he's like, tell me what to do when I diagnose somebody with the disease. What are my next steps? And I gave him my business card. I said, have them call us. We will help with a care plan. And he was very impressed by that. So one of the other reasons it's so important to get there early is by the time you start showing these symptoms, your brain has been ravaged by this disease for 10 or 20 years. So you can see why, again, early diagnosis and early detection is super important. And one of the ways we're going to do that is biomarkers. We were just at the State House actually advocating for biomarkers as well. We know that there are blood biomarkers that work. We are using those in research studies right now. The hallmark, of course, of finding this in your brain is PET scan. So that's still where researchers will always use the PET scan. But the blood biomarkers are proving to be better and better and better. So think about, you go for your annual exam to your doctor, you take your blood, get cholesterol, get everything else checked, check for Alzheimer's. Think how easy that would be. So that's what we're advocating for right now. There is another study that I think is kind of fun. It's actually looking in the eyes, and there's something in the eyes that they're seeing that's detecting levels of amyloid in the brain. So it's very exciting. You know, they're looking at a lot of different things. We don't know where the next diagnostic is coming from, but we're going to look at a lot of different things to make it easy. Because the PET scans are the hallmark, and the reason that these biomarkers are so important is think about our rural communities. PET scans are not easily accessible in a lot of communities. A lot of cities don't even have a PET scan in a hospital. So, and a lot of insurance companies are not covering PET scans. So that's why the biomarkers are so important, because that is accessible to everyone, and that's what we're working on. So the other way we're diagnosing is a spinal tap. Now, I don't know if anybody has ever had a spinal tap, but it's not the most comfortable thing, especially somebody who's dealing with some dementia. That can add to the complications of that. But it really does help in the diagnostic process as well. But the biomarkers, again, I can't stress enough how important the biomarkers are. So while we are looking at treatments and we're looking at meds, there are some modifiable risk factors. So these are your non-modifiable risk factors. Age, genetics, race, sex, you can't change those. But these are some risk factors that are modifiable. You know, physical activity, cardiovascular health, your diet, maybe not the bacon you had this morning, but that's okay. Maybe not the brain healthy meal, but eat the oatmeal, it's okay. But these are some risk factors that we can control. So we'll talk about that a little bit more in just a second. So if we looked at those modifiable risk factors, it can decrease the delay by 40%. So those modifiable factors are huge. And one of the ways that we are actually looking to make sure we have the right modifiable factors is the US Pointer study. And this is a study that's famed after a study that happened in Finland, where they took two groups of people that were at mild risk for the disease, and one group had a coach, one group didn't, and they changed their lifestyle, diet, exercise, social interaction, all of the things that we always talk about. And what they found is those with the coach who stuck to that had a 19% reduction. So we know that's great. We want to know more about that. But that happened in Finland. So can that then translate into, the melting pot? So we have this going on in 5 different areas in the country right now. We partnered with the YMCA, and I'm excited I think they said about next year at this time, we should have some preliminary results from this study. And what this is going to do is You know, we talk about right now the lifestyle changes. This is going to prove what lifestyle changes are good and what we should do. And that is important. People want to see scientific data that supports what we're doing. This is going to be it. So just a little bit of history. These are the approved therapies back from, 96? Wow, 96. To 2014. These only help symptoms. They do not address the underlying cause of the disease. In 2000, everyone may remember, we had the first treatment that actually did modify the disease. It attacked the disease at its level. And subsequently, we have 2 other ones that are coming in. Lecanemab, which is now Leqembi, and that is approved. We also have, what is that one? We also have another one. I was amazed to see this on TV, honestly. I did not realize that this was even happening, but Rexulti, you've probably seen the commercials for Alzheimer's with agitation. That's what the Rexulti is. And that was something that's really helpful, but again, symptomatic treatment. So you can see this is our new phase of treatment. This is where we are, which is exciting times. So you can see Aduhelm, Leqembi, soon to come donanemab, they are all targeting the disease itself, which is what we need. So there's obviously an urgent need to keep this research going. You know, we have a lot of studies, again, a lot of studies that are going on. One of the things we need for clinical trials is people. That's our biggest challenge, is to get people signing up for clinical trials. So I would encourage you, if you are not part of Trial Match, please go to alz.org Trial Match and sign up for Trial Match. You do not have to have the disease. You don't have to have it in your family. You don't have to say yes to any study that they tell you, but it is so important that we have people in these clinical trials, or we're not going to get where we need to be. So again, we're the global leader. You know, and it is a super exciting time. I love that we have the hope. We're in an era of treatment. We're in an era of hope. We're in a new era of care. The Alzheimer's Association is changing so much also on the care side to make sure that we're there when these early diagnoses are happening, that we now have some programs that help the person with the disease too. So I'm excited about that. Because until this day happens, while research is so important, right here in Miami Valley, we have amazing clinical managers, I know Carrie's here, that are helping our families. And that's vital. That's vital. And we're not going anywhere. Just because research is advancing and we're finding treatments, we're not going anywhere until this disease is eradicated. We will be in Miami Valley. We will be here for families. And we will be here for you if you need us. And Dane will tell you a little bit more about that. So these are just some ways, if you want more information on research, you want to know anything more about Trial Match, these are some of the ways you can do that. So really, I think my biggest takeaway today is we are so far in research. We are ramping up. We are just hitting the accelerator. And we can and will find the first survivor. We are there. We are getting there. We are not, just to clarify, we are not putting all of our eggs in the amyloid basket. I know a lot of people have asked that question. We are not. We have studies on tau. We have studies on inflammation. We have studies on a lot of different things that are affecting the brain. So we know it's probably going to be a combination of things. So that is something I know a lot of people ask me all the time is, it's not just amyloid. You're right, it's not. And that's why we're researching a lot of different things. So, it is my pleasure to introduce the amazing, the talented, one of the best leaders that we have. Yes, because HR sends me things about how wonderful your staff says you are, which is amazing. I would like to introduce Dana Ritchie, our program director.
That just means I have wonderful staff. Not that I'm a wonderful director, but I appreciate that. So what do we do here locally to make a difference in this community of the 9 counties we serve in our Miami Valley chapter? So how we help in 3 different ways mainly. First, we always want to make sure people know our 24/7 helpline. It's a national number, so why am I talking about that if I'm talking about local services? If you have ever been a caregiver to someone who has dementia, you likely need help at times that our offices aren't open, right? 2 in the morning, Thanksgiving afternoon when you're not sure what just happened at Aunt Polly's house with Uncle Harold. That's when you need to talk to somebody, right? You also may have family members that live in different states. They're not blessed to be here in Ohio, but they can call this 24/7 helpline as well. So at this helpline, you can get all kinds of information. You can get information about local programming that's happening, but you can also get education as well as a care plan or care consulting. So for someone who's recently been diagnosed with the disease, they can call this helpline and ask questions. If a person calls this helpline from one of our 9 counties, one of our staff members will follow up with them, whether they ask for that or not. It's because you do want them to know about the local care and support that we provide. But they can ask to be connected to the chapter as well. We also provide free education, support groups, and social engagement programming for people. And the support groups are for caregivers. The education, though, is for lots of different audiences. So definitely caregiver education, but information about some of the things Anne-Marie was talking about. What are the things we can do for our lifestyle? What are lifestyle changes we can make to help with our cognition? What is the difference between normal aging and something that you should be talking to your doctor about? Not necessarily dementia, but definitely not normal, and you need to have that conversation. We also have some programming around legal and financial planning, something actually we should all know about, because unfortunately we're all going to hopefully age and need that kind of information. And then as Anne-Marie talked about, we do have local clinicians. So yes, Carrie and Sonia are here, and they are our care consultants. So we have nurses, social workers, licensed nursing home administrators that can sit down with you and your family or get on a phone call with you and just talk you through what you need to plan and prepare for at each step of the disease, because it is a journey. It's usually years in the journey, and you can have as many free care consultations from our staff as you would like. We also have a terrific development staff with 2 of our biggest fundraisers. In fact, the Walk to End Alzheimer's happens nationally in over 600 communities. Outside of the money that we receive from grants and the NIH, this is where you can help us raise money for research as well as care and support. So every fall here in the Miami Valley chapter, we have 5 different walks to end Alzheimer's. So it's something you can actually do to honor or in memory of someone who has dementia. You can take some action. You can raise money for this disease. You can also raise a team together to go out into the community and bring awareness to this disease. So Jim and Ben, who are over here at this table, they can talk to you all about our 5 different walks to end Alzheimer's. We also have another fundraising opportunity a lot of people don't know about. It's called The Longest Day. It is the day with the most light, is the day that we fight. And so this happens around the summer solstice every year, but it's actually a year-round fundraising event. So if you'd rather fight in February, we'll let you fight in February. So what is that? It's a really create your own fundraising event. Maybe your grandma loved to bake. We have somebody here who bakes bread for the Longest Day and sells that bread, and the proceeds go to his Longest Day team. Maybe you want to have a dance-off. Maybe you want to have a golf tournament. If there's something you want to do outside of the walk to raise money at a different time of the year, the longest day is the way you can do that. So Sarah Gogler, who I think walked out of the room, but she has a table right here toward the front. She can tell you all about the longest day if you're interested in learning more about that. So those are the things we can do, but how can you help? Well, first of all, you can help us stop the stigma. There's a huge stigma about this disease. People don't want to talk about it. People don't use the word dementia. And so you can help us by sharing your stories out in public, on social media. You can help us by becoming a volunteer for any of those things I've talked about before. We need volunteers to help with our fundraising committees. We need volunteers to lead support groups. We have a couple of folks here that do that. We need volunteers to give education programs out in the community. So we definitely could use your help there. Make sure you're sharing what you learned today with your family, friends, and community. Our biggest issue on the programs and services side is just lack of awareness. And I'm one of those people, unfortunately. I didn't know about the association when I really needed them, and that all these programs and services were free. So sharing what you learned today can be something you can do to help us. And then, of course, raise money with us. Become an advocate with us. Any of the things that we talked about are ways that you can help us. And again, please share our resources with your friends, your neighbors. If you have a civic organization, a church group, co-workers that you would like to have some education about this disease, we can give just awareness of what we do, pretty much what I talked about today, or we can actually give some education on warning signs, how to communicate with someone who has dementia. We'd be happy to do those things. So at the table closest to the door, if you'd like to host any of those education programs or a support group, you can leave your information with us there. So next, I have the privilege of introducing Mr. Scott Griswold. So he is one of our volunteer community educators. He's one of the most amazing men I have ever met. He speaks for free, but every time he speaks, he demands that we introduce him. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce Scott Griswold.
Well, good morning. Good morning. Good morning. My name is Scott Griswold, as it was mentioned. No relation to Clark Griswold from the movies, but my wife, Karen, will tell you some stories about me and decorating at Christmas, especially the one time that I ended up in the hospital due to rotator cuff surgery, hanging the very last of our Christmas lights. I am a volunteer community educator with the Miami Valley Association. I am here today with my spouse, Karen Griswold. I have been a community educator since the spring of 2019 after attending workshops that this association offers. I want to share my story with you this morning because of the one reason I volunteer with this organization. The Alzheimer's Association has provided me with many reasons of hope. During my morning ritual of spiritual practices last Thursday, the day I planned to prepare my talk for today, the quote, "Hope is better than anything uncertainty puts in front of us." That's what started my day. Choosing the way of hope is so much far better than the uncertainty of having a diagnosis of Alzheimer's. I choose the path of hope each and every day. My story actually begins with our dog, Driggs. Driggs arrived in August of 2018. She became a very special part of our lives and is a very special part of my story. That same month, I was working on a project in our courtyard. It became very frustrating for me, very difficult. Just a hammer, a screwdriver, some little pieces of wood and stuff, and I could not complete that task. I came into the house angry, frustrated, upset, telling my wife, I think I'm losing it, and I didn't say it in such nice words as I used today, and I probably added a few words that I can't share here this morning. Karen is a very important part, the most important part of my story. She calmed me down and told me that we are going to have a conversation, but we're not going to have the conversation that day. Later in the week, Karen graciously began to tell me of the things that she noticed happening around our home, such as the freezer door left open, items misplaced, water faucets left on, and many of my frustrations over normal activities. She shared with me that she noticed changes taking place in my role as a pastor. As I led worship and even preached, I would lose my place in the order of worship. I would even leave parts of the worship out, which people didn't mind because we got out earlier. I skipped over a lot of parts. I mispronounced words. I made up words. I kept skipping words, and I began to talk slower and lose myself if I went off my text a little too much. But one of the things that she added is that others noticed this as well, and they shared that with her. Of course, they wouldn't share that with me, only with her. Her best friend told her, all I can tell you, Karen, is the earlier you do something about it, the better off you are. She suggested that I go to Dr. Davatha, my physician for 20 years at that time. Now I have been with him for 26. He is a very important part of this story as well. Dr. Davatha conducted a variety of cognitive testing. My wife and I answered all of those standard questionnaires, even the ones put out by the Alzheimer's Association. But the most important part was an EKG-type mapping of my brain waves that showed a decline and a stress in my brain due to something going on in there. Later, we learned that this buildup lessened the function of my neurons. After an evaluation that was conducted by a neurologist, the diagnosis was dementia Alzheimer's. I was given the standard Alzheimer's medication that showed up on Anne Marie's chart, told to reduce my stress, exercise more, and that's where Driggs plays an important part in this story, is she requires me to walk her at least 5 or 6 times a day. It's easy for me to get 10 to 12,000 steps in. It's an easy thing to do. Eat the mind diet and do the activities that I enjoy the most. And I continued for a while as a pastor. The last 3 months of that year were not easy. It meant informing our children and grandchildren, my siblings, all of which had so many various responses. It meant telling my congregation, where I had been a pastor since 2001. I knew many people. I knew many people who were caregivers and those who had something we called getting older or dementia, but not truly understanding. It was all of these people, including my family, who also are a very important part of me, especially my grandchildren here. Now, here is where you come into the picture. This is some of the ways that I have learned to live with this diagnosis of Alzheimer's. Later that year, on an internet search, I discovered the Miami Valley Alzheimer's Association. That January, I attended my first workshop of so many so that I could begin to understand aging, dementia, and Alzheimer's. It was a godsend, truly a godsend to me, and has truly been this way ever since. The Miami Valley Association provided not only education and understanding, but what they did provide, more importantly, is a new professional outlet, an outlet for me as a community educator. As a result, in the spring of 2019, as a community educator for the association, I can share my story. I like to share my story. It's important to share my story, to assist others in the importance of early detection, as we heard earlier, reducing this stigma, and the value of a healthy, positive living, and enhancing the quality of care for those living with dementia. I can tell you, by the way I can stand up here and talk today, compared to where I was 6 years ago, these medications are working. And they work for everyone if you are willing to get over the stigma, not deny it, and go and talk to your healthcare professional. I offer effective communication strategies for care partners and caregivers. We do it at homes and in institutions. Besides community educator, I have had many opportunities from the association to do other experiences, to advocate for research and educational funding on the state level by attending Advocacy Day, which is held every year at the State House in April. And as it was mentioned earlier, one of my greatest joys is bread baking, something that I will start to do and use to my advantage to raise funds for the longest day in June. And finally, I have been on the Clark and Champaign County walks for over the past years as a team member and as a team co-captain. This year, I will walk with my family, and we're going to walk in Dayton, naming our team the Griswalkers, or also known Polish Resistance. We will walk in honor of Driggs. We will walk in honor of my family, my doctor, and especially in honor of all the people who are part of the Miami Valley Alzheimer's Association. As you can tell, there are many ways that you yourself can bring hope to those living with Alzheimer's. You can bring hope to their care partners, and you can do it by getting involved. If you already are, I thank you. If you are not, please join us to bring hope. I wear this blue flower right here. I wear this blue flower as one who has dementia. I have the hope that a cure will be found. There will be one individual who will wear the white flower. At this stage of my diagnosis, it probably won't be me. I'm too old. Who knows? But I know it will be somebody younger, and I know that I will be there to celebrate with the first person who does. So won't you please join me? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Scott, so much. I never get tired of hearing Scott share his story. He always makes me laugh. He's amazing. So, you know, it's people like Scott, it's people like Scott's family, it's future generations, it's for the hope of a world without Alzheimer's that we're here this morning. As Scott mentioned, we're here to find the first survivor. It could have been the person you kissed goodbye this morning. It could have been the person in the car in front of you at a stoplight on your way here. It could be the person sitting next to you. Wherever the first survivor is coming from, it will be the Alzheimer's Association that finds it. But we will not get to that day without you. So this is where you come in. And we are so excited to have you this morning. And we want to encourage you to help by making a donation this morning. And to help encourage that, we are so blessed to have had a challenge match donor. The Steve Mason family has challenged everyone in this room this morning to raise $10,000. When we hit $10,000, they will match $10,000. So we encourage you to give this morning. No better time to give and get your donation doubled, right? That's the best thing. That's the best time to give. And how can you give? Right? Who's asking, how can you give? Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. On your table, you have seen a little program. If you flip it over, on the back is a QR code. We could not have made this any easier for you. Get your phones out. I don't see phones out. Get your phones out, scan the QR code, and you can make a secure donation online. It's so easy to do. If you like Cedric, and you have a pile of cash in your pocket, or you have your checkbook and you'd rather write a check, that is fine too. On your tables, there's envelopes. Inside the envelope is a donation form. You're welcome to fill that out and put your check or your cash back in the envelope and put that envelope on the mirror at your table, and then we will come around and collect them. But this morning, it's about hope, and it's about how each and every one of you today can make that day happen where we find the first survivor, where we have somebody wearing the white flower, where at the walk, we don't see a sea of purple flowers anymore. We see a sea of white flowers because people are surviving this disease. You can help make that day happen. So again, scan the QR code, or the QR code on the big, I saw Missy get her phone out and scan that. Thank you. Appreciate that. If you have any questions, please let us know. We promised to get you out at 9 o'clock, so we're right on the money here. But let's see. Oh, you guys, you have lots of time to make that donation. Come on, look at that. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me, Terry, Dana. Scott is here to answer any questions too. Please find out more about our walk. It is an amazing day. If you haven't been to our walk, you need to come to walk and just experience it. If you want to do a TLD event, I still don't see Sarah, but Sarah will be here. You could talk to her about that. If you need help, if you have a neighbor that needs help, if you have a friend that needs help, please visit our table in the back and learn more about our free programs and services. I can tell you, I hear care consultations go on because they're in the room next to my office, and people come in just frazzled, and they leave just shoulders down, relaxed, because they have a plan. And that's, again, what you're helping. So thank you guys all for everything. Please ask us any questions. But thank you. And I just want to say congratulations and thank you to Terry McFarland. This is her first ever Reason to Hope, and she did this with Karen, and you guys did an amazing job. So thank you, Terry, for all you do. Just thank you to our Miami Valley staff that are here, Carrie and Sonia and Jim, Ben, Jenny, Dana, Holly. Just thank you guys for all you do. I know you work hard every single day, and I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. This cause is very near and dear to me. My staff know this. I lost my mom in 2018. It was devastating. She actually died of breast cancer that had spread. But the problem with that is I couldn't ask her what she wanted. I couldn't ask her if she wanted treatments. I couldn't ask her anything. I had to lie to my mother about dying. She asked me if she was dying. Luckily, my back was to her, and I was hanging up her clothes because tears just down my face. I had to wipe my face and turn around, and I'm like, Mom, no, you're not dying. You're just really sick. I felt terrible. I felt awful. She's like, are you lying to me? And I'm like, oh my God. And I knew I couldn't tell her because if I did, 10 minutes later, she's going to ask me again and get upset again. So by the grace of God, the next day when I came in, she said, "Hey, come here for a second." And so I sat down next to her bed, she grabbed my hand, and she said, "Anne-Marie, I know I'm dying. And you know what? It's okay." And that was the best thing she could have done for me, because I didn't want to live with having lied to my mom. So that's why I fight every day. I don't want anybody to ever be in that position. It was a horrible position to be in, and I don't want any daughters to ever have to go through that again. But the good news is, and you're all gonna laugh, my mom looks exactly like the Quaker Oat guy. I kid you not. I kid you not. I'll show you pictures if you want to see it. So, when growing up, my dad used to draw hair and glasses on the oatmeal box. I mean, she really did look just like the oatmeal box. So when I'm missing my mom and I'm feeling like, gosh, I need some support from my mom, you know what I do? I go down the breakfast cereal aisle at the grocery store. And there she is. And I do have an oatmeal container on the top of my refrigerator, so I see her every day. And she's looking over me every day. I don't use those oats. Those just stay there. But anyway, that's my story. Sorry, but we had a little bit of time, so I thought I'd fill you in on that. So again, if you have any questions, please let us know. And when you go down the cereal aisle, remember my mom. And remember, you can make a difference, and you can help daughters not have to go through what I went through. So thank you very much.